Hey guys, this is Daniel Dr. D, and this is going to be the final chapter on the Klipsch Heresy Odious Endeavor project. This has been such an amazing success because what I'm about to show you, you guys have never seen. And I'm eventually going to do some demos between the Magnapan LRS Plus, the original Forte, this particular Heresy, and a new Forte that I have developed myself. And I did some beta tests using the old ones to see if my experiment worked, and it came out quite amazing. And I got to tell you, after making this modification to this Heresy alone, this is by far the most amazing speaker I've had here. And I'm so amazed with the results of it. It's just been a truly, stunning success. And it has only inspired me to modify the Fortes. And the Fortes are actually almost done. There are going to be, I'm just waiting on a few parts. I should have all those next week. And, the cabinets have already been constructed and stained. I'll show you just a couple of brief videos on how I did that. I'll also cover all this in a video following this one on that new speaker. And you'll see from start to finish how I put that together. I'll discuss woodworking a little bit. For those of you who don't know, I've been doing woodworking nearly my whole life, so this is not a new thing for me. I'll get a little bit more detailed about that in the next video. But for now, this Heresy is just truly next level, and I haven't heard anything like it before. Even Bob came over and had a chance to listen to it, and he was just shocked. And it's really made us rethink about how we think about horns and the size and scale of horns, how that makes such a vast difference in improvement, and particularly with regard to the sound stage. So what I'm going to do here also is I'm going to give you guys a rundown on the Bema woofer that I got from US Speakers from Al. I want to thank Morris at Shinjitsu Audio. That Shinjitsu horn 2+2 is just stunning. I've just made one modification to it, and the results are just mind-blowing for me. All right, so I'm going to take you guys over to the speaker, show you what's going on, and then I'm going to give you guys a brief overview of the Bema 12-inch woofer. This is very important so that you guys understand a couple of things about it, because I haven't explained everything about how it's affected by preamps and bass control or treble and whatnot. So you'll understand as we proceed. So here is the end result. And this is going to conclude the Odious endeavor. We're finally done. This is so satisfying that I'm done with it. Obviously, this is a JBL horn. It's the famous 2370A. Now, this is a well-known horn. It's a discontinued model, but it's made of like an acrylic composite. And I did some research on materials, and it's the thing about it is it's supposed to prevent ringing. It's a very it doesn't weigh a whole lot, but it doesn't ring, And I didn't have any problems with the Shinjitsu horn at all. I just thought, hey, why don't I just get a pair of these things online used? And I got the Shinjitsu. Everything's going to stay the way it is, but this is the final product, and we're not going to be doing anything more because this is perfect. It's just great the way it is. And the sound stage that you get from a horn this big is just mind-blowing. Now, this is the original horn. If you look, you'll see there's the Shinjitsu horn. And you can see the difference in scale, size there. This Shinjitsu, thank goodness Morris, the idea of this being a modular system is so brilliant. You have to remember, I can't change a horn. You can't change a horn if it's integrated into the cabinet. But if you have it modular, have it separate where you can integrate it with different speakers, you can do all sorts of things. It's pretty endless. The sound stage is just so colossal with these horns now that you don't even hear a stereo kind of image. in the sense that you don't hear it like left and right. You hear everything like a wall of sound. Now we're basically in Magnapan territory where you get this monstrous sound stage. That's what it's like. But the difference is that you have more bass and you have more pinpoint imaging because you're using, drivers. And man, it is unworldly. It's just so beyond anything I've ever owned. My Fortes can't compete with these. And these speakers are just, they sound larger than they physically are. I bet you these will sound like a La Scala speaker in scale and size, but with better bass, more improved bass. I'm so happy with this speaker now, and I'm super excited. And last night, I was just playing for hours on end. I couldn't stop putting it down. It was just reliving the experience. Now, I kept the JBL stickers because I didn't know if I was going to resell them after attaching them to the Shinjitsu Horn 2+2 crossover system. And what I had to do to integrate this horn is it does have a 1-inch throat inside, okay? I had to make a special bracket to secure the horn in place using screws in the side to make it work with the Horn 2+2. But what a transformation. And it doesn't take up a lot of real estate, as you can see here. So pretty nice in that regard. Just tremendous. One of the things that's really fantastic about these large horns is the phantom image. And one of the things you get continuously in this phantom image is this center area here. It's just filled up with different pinpoints of, sound sources, pianos and violins or whatever the instruments are. It's just continuous phantom image. And I've never had that before. Unlike smaller horns where you just kind of get a stereo image in each side, a smaller image. This is just a wall of 3D sound. It's just so remarkable. All right, I wanted to take a moment here to explain something to you about horns that I think is happening here that I've always noticed. And I discussed this in the previous video with the 2 different horns I reviewed from Space Tech Labs. One of the horns looks sort of like this. That's the 10-inch horn. And the 7-inch horn kind of looks like more like this sort of shape. And what I notice is you get more coherency with this horn. So say if you hear a trumpet, it sounds more forward in your face, whereas the 10-inch one sounds more like the sound stage is larger and gives the sort of a feeling or sense of listening that the stage is slightly further in the back, this way. Really interesting the way they differ. What's so unique about this JBL horn, the 2370A, is something really interesting about the throat. If you look at the throat, okay, here's a top view of the horn. Comes in like so. The throat is bizarre. It starts out at 1 inch right here, the top. 1 inch. As the sound waves go through the throat, they're slightly compressed. I think that the actual end of the throat, where the mouth, I guess this whole thing begins, right here, it looks to me to be like 3/4 of an inch. It starts out at 1 inch, but it seems to compress just as it releases out here into the main horn. What's happening here, what's so interesting, is I'm getting very coherent trumpet sounds, which is bizarre because my mind is thinking, hey man, the horn is wider, I'm just going to get a wide sound stage. But I think I'm getting both. And I think it's because I'm getting this sort of compression that's coming out here from here. And then I'm getting the sound stage as the sound waves extend out here. Obviously, I'm no horn expert, but I am just telling you, it almost seems like it combines these 2 horns together. And it just, I think all the magic is in this way this throat is designed. It really is the most beautiful sounding horn I've ever heard in my life. Okay, so I briefly want to discuss this Bema 12-inch woofer with you guys. And this is really important if anyone here is considering one of these 12BR70 Bama woofers, okay, from US speakers. There's a surprising amount of mid-range that comes out of this speaker. And the reason for that is because this woofer is rated from something like 30 hertz on up to like 4,000 hertz. And Morris over at Shinjitsu Audio has this crossover set to roughly 1,300 hertz on down. So you got to think about this for a minute. That means that this woofer is going to be producing a lot of mid-range, and there's a lot that comes out of it when I play music. And that's the beauty of this pairing that you have here. And it's not just the horn, tweeter and everything that's doing all this. The driver has a very impactful influence on that mid-range as well, okay? And what happens is that if you're using a preamp that has tone controls, and let's say you're playing an older recording, and just say you want to add some bass, right? So let's say everything's set to flat, and you want to add like a little bit of bass. Maybe you'll set it at roughly 2 o'clock, 1:30, 2 o'clock. And if you go back and you listen, you're going to find out that the music in the mid-range starts to become veiled, because the bass is veiling that mid-range that's also coming out of there. Now, this is a little bit of an issue if you want to work with tone controls. However, most preamps with tone controls have treble as well. So if you apply the equal amount of treble that you do with the bass, okay, roughly there, then everything will go back to normal, and you'll still get that additional bass without compromising the mid-range. It sounds good, sounds fantastic if you just apply that treble to it. That may not be the case with every recording. You might be okay with leaving the treble. But I just found that adjusting the bass a little bit sometimes just veil the mid-range a little bit, and you got to use the treble to compensate for it. Now, there's another thing I want to discuss with you, and that is about different types of drivers. Okay, there's all sorts of different drivers on the market. But this is a really important factor too. If you take, for example, this album, Blue Mist by Sam the Man Taylor, or if you take, any kind of recording, like an older recording, like a Lester Young. I like to listen to a lot of old jazz. And one of the problems that you get when you get too much, when you get obsessed with having a hi-fi speaker. And when I say hi-fi speaker, what I mean by that is like these really ultra detailed speakers that reveal every little thing, crook and cranny inside the song or the album that may exist in there. And it's very important, in my opinion, to have a balance of not having too much detail. That might be the thing for some people. But I've spent a good deal of time trying to match equipment and components. And I feel like this Bama woofer is just a magic sauce with classic jazz recordings. And I just like it. It's not too overly analytical. And when I say analytical, I mean like it doesn't reveal so much that it becomes almost annoying. You don't want that. At least I don't, So it's something to be aware of. When you listen to old jazz recordings, it's not like modern music. If I take a modern recording and I play it through just about any speaker, it's going to sound amazing. But it takes a lot of work, a lot of time to experiment to get older recordings to sound pretty nice. It's pretty balanced, And I think this has just been achieved in spades with this setup. And it's just been remarkable. All right, so I think that covers that, and we'll move on. Okay, so here you can see the Heresy's horn is like 1/3 the upper size of the whole Forte on the left. And the difference in soundstage is monumental between the two speakers. The bass is nice on both of them. The bass is also more relaxed on the Forte. It's a little bit slower sounding, doesn't have as much immediacy. So after all that, I decided to go ahead and put the JBL horn with the Shinjitsu crossover system on top of the Forte and do my experiments. And this is when I had a revelation and just said, you know what? This cabinet has 1.6 times the volume of the
Heresy cabinet, and as a result, I was getting more bass. Now you have to remember there is a passive woofer on this back side of this, and the computer modeling calls for a 3-inch port with a 6-inch depth to it. And I want to thank Al over at US Speakers for assisting me with that. So, and since the results were so nice with this, what I did is I bypassed the Kreitz crossovers inside. So all you have here is just the horn and the Shinjitsu running with the Bema woofer in the Forte cabinet, and the results were really beautiful. And as a result, it inspired me to go ahead and begin the Forte project, and that is pretty much almost done. You're going to see some footage on that in just a moment. I'm going to show you how that looks, and then we'll do another video that will show you all the comparisons between all the speakers and how they sound. That'll include the Magnepan LRS Plus, as well as the Heresy compared to this new Forte. Now, for those of you wondering why I'm redoing the Forte, you have to remember that the 12-inch woofer on this Forte is at the center of the cabinet. So it doesn't matter if I leave it right side up or turn it upside down, I can't get the woofer on either side. So I had to construct a new cabinet. So what follows here is the construction of that new cabinet. I'm going to show that to you right now. All right, so here's some 3/4 inch Sapelli plywood. And in the video following this one, in the next part, I'm going to explain to you why this wood was chosen, some of the acoustical properties versus insulation kind of stuff. And then I'm going to give you a step-by-step tutorial on how I put this all together and converted all this into a cabinet for the new Forte that's being built right now. And I have a lot of experience in woodworking, and I used to do it for a living, and I've been doing it most of my life, so it's really not a difficult thing for me. And we'll get into that as we proceed. So I hope you enjoyed this program. Stay tuned. There's going to be a lot more of what you see here coming up here very shortly in the next video. And we're also going to do all those comparisons with the LRS Plus and the other speakers together. So I hope that you'll stay tuned and that you enjoy these videos.